Well, an apparent dispute over property drove a man in China's northwestern Shanxi province to kill 7 kindergarten students and 2 adults. It is the latest in a string of deadly attacks on school children that have terrified parents across the country. Local officials say the 48-year-old man killed the school administrator before turning on the children. He then returned home and killed himself. Well, 11 other children were injured in the attack, and our correspondent Melissa Chan joins us live from outside the hospital in the city of Hanzhong, where the children are being treated. Melissa, what's going on?
Well, we know that some of the children have been moved out of the ICU intensive care unit, but unfortunately, this is a very small private kindergarten, and most of the students did not manage to escape the attacker's knife.
After 24 hours, some children are now well enough to be moved out of the intensive care unit, the survivors of what has now become the worst school attack in China over the past few months. Outside the ward, doctors update parents on their children's condition, but officials soon asked us to leave the hospital, and we could not speak to any of the families.
China's rapid economic growth has brought with it a widening gap between the rich and the poor. Growing consumerism has been blamed for increasing social pressures. China has few ways for people to resolve civil grievances or complaints, such as the property dispute in the latest incident. And Beijing has been criticized for its lack of attention to mental health. An article in a highly respected medical journal says about 1 in 5 adults in China suffers from some form of mental disorder, and it has one of the highest rates in the world. Well, Joseph Ching is a political scientist from the City University in Hong Kong. He says China's underlying social problems are the key reason for this spate of killings.
I think the deeper causes, of course, are in the process of transforming a socialist economy into a highly competitive, high-pressure market economy.
Trading closed this week with the euro falling to $1.24 in Europe, its lowest level since October 2008. That in turn drove share markets around the world lower. In New York, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell more than 1.5%. In London and Frankfurt, key indices dropped more than 3%, while France's CAC 40 slumped more than 4.5%.
Well, share markets in the US and Asia have rallied after Spain said it will make deep cuts in public spending to stem the spread of Europe's debt crisis. The $19 billion worth of cuts will affect state employees and will see large reductions in government investment. Spain's ballooning budget deficit has caused worries that it would dwarf Greece's enormous debt problems.
Welcome to the program. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has described the situation on the Korean Peninsula as highly precarious. Tensions there are on the rise once again after South Korean President Lee Myung-bak announced a series of new sanctions against North Korea. Lee saying his country will no longer tolerate the behavior of its northerly neighbor. And South Korea's allies are placing their weight firmly behind it. Stephanie Scowen has our top story.
The prime suspect in the sinking of South Korean warship Cheonan in March was always North Korea. But it took Seoul 2 months to formally point the finger of blame at Pyongyang. Now it's payback time.
From now on, the Republic of Korea will not tolerate any provocative act by the North and will maintain the principle of proactive deterrence. If our territorial waters, airspace or territory are violated, we will immediately exercise our right of self-defense.
South Korean warship the Cheonan was ripped apart by an explosion and sank in the Yellow Sea. On April the 19th, President Lee made an emotional address on television vowing tough action against those responsible for the attack. On April the 24th, the ship's wreckage was salvaged from the seabed for investigations. And on May the 20th, the team of international military and civilian investigators in Seoul pointed the finger at the North. North Korea has denied the accusation and threatened all-out war if it were punished. Well, Andrei Lankov is a professor in North Korean history at Kookmin University in Seoul. He gave his reaction to President Lee's announcement.
A brilliant public relations exercise. Because from the very beginning, the South Korean government found itself in a very difficult situation, a lose-lose situation. Because probably from the late March, the AJE knew or strongly suspected that it was a North Korean attack. However, they also understood that any kind of military retaliation or any kind of really tough measures are extremely dangerous. Because first, such measures technically possible. They have superiority, military superiority, but such measures will lead to escalation and growth of tensions. And South Korea greatly depends on the world market. Investors and bankers hate the places where international situation is not stable. So if they retaliate, their economy will suffer, and economy is what matters. At the same time, the South Korean government does not want to appear weak and gutless and spineless in front of their own public, especially in front of their supporters. Therefore, they had to do something which would appear to be tough and decisive.